I used to laugh at people who said their houses were haunted. You know, the usual stuff. Flickering lights, strange noises in the night, objects moving on their own. I thought it was all just a mix of paranoia and an overactive imagination. But then, something happened in my own house, and I'm not so sure anymore. I had just moved into this old, two-story home in a quiet, suburban neighborhood. The place wasn't anything special: 1950s architecture, hardwood floors that creaked when you walked, and an attic that the previous owners said they never used. They said it was just for storage, but it looked like they hadn't set foot up there in decades. The first few weeks were uneventful. I'd come home from work, make dinner, and settle into my new life. But then one night, I heard something. A faint scraping noise, like wood rubbing against wood. At first, I brushed it off as the house settling. It's old, after all. But the sound didn't go away. In fact, it started getting louder, more insistent. It was coming from the attic. I'm not proud to admit that I ignored it for a few days. I didn't want to know what was up there, and honestly, I assumed it was just a rat or something. But then, one night, the noise changed. It wasn't a scraping sound anymore. It was more like footsteps. Slow, deliberate footsteps, pacing back and forth above my bedroom ceiling. That night, I couldn't sleep. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, listening. I kept telling myself that it was my imagination, that old houses make weird noises all the time. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. The next morning, I decided to check it out. I grabbed a flashlight, pulled down the rickety attic ladder, and climbed up. The air up there was thick with dust, and the wooden beams groaned under my weight. It was exactly what you'd expect an old attic to look like: boxes piled in the corners, cobwebs hanging from the rafters, and that strange, musty smell. But there was nothing unusual. No sign of animals, no broken windows where something could have gotten in. Nothing. I figured I must have been hearing things. But as I turned to leave, something caught my eye. On the far side of the attic, partially hidden behind an old dresser, was a small wooden door. I hadn't noticed it before. It was about 3 feet high, like a crawlspace door, with rusted hinges and a thick padlock hanging from it. I didn't like the look of that door. There was something about it that made my skin crawl. But curiosity got the better of me. I walked over to it, bent down, and tried the padlock. It was solid, unmoving. I gave the door a shove, but it didn't budge. The thing was sealed tight. I left the attic that day, trying to put it out of my mind. But the footsteps didn't stop. In fact, they got worse. It was as if something, or someone, was pacing right above me, night after night. Sometimes it sounded like 2 people, walking in sync, their footsteps echoing through the house. Then the knocking started.